Got to get the hang of all these buttons and things now I need to press. Well, good morning to all of you. And to those of you who don't know, I'm Harry Twillier, because I don't know all of you, but I nearly do know. Welcome to our 25th anniversary and 25 years of innovation. Also welcome to Julian and Jade. And I think I'm right in saying that Julian wasn't aware that we were doing this. So that's great. Back in 1985, 32 years ago, I had a company called Fraser Associates with offices in Buckingham. One day, we received a knock at the door, and a smart young man in his school uniform presented himself, asking if that he could do work experience over his summer holidays, and we agreed. And so Julian Thomas duly came to us after work every day, and he manufactured cables, and hence a career was born. Well, we thought he might join us after school or after university, but clearly he had some other ideas. After Durham University, where I gather Julian had a very enjoyable time, he joined Superchips, just up the road, where it was evidently cool to wear an oversized pair of headphones. Now, Superchips was never going to give Julian exactly what he wanted. So in 1992, I don't know quite why it jumped to there. In 1992, he started up on his own, forming Racelogic on this very day. Set up his business in Fleece Yard there. Now, Phil Davis, as you...
No one read the quote.
Okay, sorry.
No one read the quote then.
Phil Davis, who was to join a little bit later, remembered driving to his interview and imagining that after all the smart Autosport shows, etc., that Julian's offices would be very smart, and clearly not. Oh, I thought it was always on the left. Oh, I'd always imagined that. Okay.
That's Kevin's gin.
Yes, Phil remembered going up for his interview, and he wasn't entirely impressed. It was very compact, his office, with lots of cars on the wall, and I'm not sure whether that was his filing or his waste bin, but
That's my filing.
it was clearly one. So actually, very little changes.
When that overflowed, I actually had to do something.
Now, sorry, let me just go back to that. Traction control was one of the major products that Julian and his small team worked on, and that continued to be sold right up until 2016 with very few changes. Now, one day a call came in from Rolls-Royce asking Julian for a traction control for a Bentley. Now, it appears that Bosch had quoted some £500,000 for a feasibility study, but Julian was confident that he could do it. And so he and Ian went up and fitted a unit to a test vehicle. I think they charged about £5,000 for it. And the factory driver got into the car and put the near side onto the grass verge, booted it. I hope Julian's agreeing with these stories. And the vehicle launched itself in a dead straight line, which was kind of good if you're in a vehicle of that size, of that price, and the rest of it. So Racelogic gained the business. Business also came from the Sultan of Brunei. Now, we haven't managed to get a photograph of him, but never mind. And he wanted the fastest acceleration time possible, and that relationship stayed with Racelogic for some time. It might, of course, have worked rather differently, especially thinking back to the time when Julian fitted traction control to an Aston Martin. And then, when he was testing it on the outskirts of Buckingham, he spun off. Sounds quite familiar, am I just remembering? Spun off, and it turned out the traction unit had been wired...
The on-off switch had been back to front.
The wrong way around. So 1993, Ian Jones, who some of you may have seen, he was working with Racelogic, and it turned out that Phil Davis got over his inhibitions regarding the state of the office, and he joined. Ian was very involved in the Diagnos project, where we were asked to create an aftermarket automotive diagnostic tool. And it was so successful that Ian left and went to join that company. And he returned to Racelogic, of course, a few years ago as a non-executive director. 1993 was a very profitable year. For those of you who, by the way, are you okay? You hear me at the back? Yeah, you're right. It was a very profitable year, making £3,700 profit in that year, which is interesting, really. That's almost exactly 1,000th of the profit that we've made so far this year. Almost exactly 1,000th, as long as my maths is right. In 1995, Kevin joined. He joined the team and he became Director of Application Sales.
He was in the gym opposite me.
Yes, he was. He worked locally, and he had a very significant part. There is a chair if you want to take a seat just in front of you. There we go. I won't draw attention to any latecomers and how you managed to get in through a locked door, but don't worry about those things. He had a very significant part in developing the direction of our products and also making sure that they performed in exactly the way they were meant to do. In that year, according to this magazine, Max Power, Julian was playing Street Fighter 36. Lucky him. I don't know quite what the significance of that story was, but the article went on to say that they were impressed with the traction control, so that was good. It also... Say again? Oh yeah, he's got a mobile phone, yeah. Is that the Apple One?
In fact, that's Dave Clark's car, and that was his phone.
Oh, I thought it was I thought this... Oh, that's his car.
Yeah.
And this was a company car?
My car?
That was your car.
Yeah, I had a shitty old Peugeot, and he had a Sierra Cosmo.
Clearly, Julian's taste in cars has gone up or improved somewhat.
I cared about my employees.
Absolutely. I hope you're catching all these little snippets from Julie as we go along. I've never had so much heckling in all my life. Come on. Switchlogic. That was launched in about 1995. Our dates are a little bit vague here because later on I arrived and I put bookkeeper in, and of course now I know exactly where everything was sold, but in those days I think it's true to say that details weren't quite as accurate. So yes, Switchlogic was launched in 1995 and it was fitted to Jaguar, BMW and Mercedes gearboxes to give them a push-button gear change. 1995, I thought, the company moved up to one of Fraser's old industrial units, and here in 1996 you can see the team of people: Kevin, Dave Clark, Jenny, Stu, young Julian, and Phil Davies. Those were the days, eh? Chris Smith joined in 1996 from Superchips, just along the road where Julian had previously worked. And Superchips proved to be a very fruitful recruitment ground over the next few years. More of that in a moment. Chris, as technical director, has been responsible for a large number of products, in particular Cantran, Switchlogic and LabSat. And I just did a little jotting up the other day, and the combined revenue of those three is 12 million. And out of interest, the profit was about 9. Before I forget Switchlogic, it reminds me that Julian went over to Mercedes in Germany to demonstrate it in a little SLK model, I think it was. And that was great, except they had to drive through Belgium, and they ran out of petrol as they arrived in Belgium, or as they were in Belgium. Just before night fell, all the petrol stations were closed, and so Julian and Chris, sitting bolt upright in their cars all night, slept all night, sitting bolt upright until they could go on to their demo. I think they got the business, and indeed the product of Switchlogic survived until 2004. Strangely, so evidently did the relationship between Julian and Chris after this rather traumatic experience. There were a number of traumatic experiences in this. We sold a plethora of products. Try saying that after a drink. But some of the more successful ones were VSAM for petrol cars on the left there, CPC for diesel cars. VSAM we sold up until 2002, and then we sold the rights for that for, do you remember how much money to Van Arken? 3,500 quid. We sold the rights, yeah. Our contact at Van Arken was a guy called David Denyer, who some of you will know, and he was always a friend of Racelogic. So one day he said that he would help us at the Autosport show. And so Chris and Julian and he duly trotted along, and they wanted to economise because we had very little money in those days. And so they shared a single hotel room. Not sure if you're aware about this, Jade. And it has to be said that there were 2 beds, so I hope I'm painting a bit of a picture here. And Julian was in the larger one with another member of staff I've mentioned earlier. And that was another traumatic experience for Chris, I'm told. Okay. 1998, that little fellow is Alta Power, which Julian was one of his favourite things.
That was Kevin's idea.
Again, interesting to see, how many do you think we sold of those?
100?
750. They caused the alternator to turn off when 75% or more of throttle was used, so it gave more power to the engine. About 8 horsepower, I gather, in one vehicle. Anyway, on from Alta Power. Oh, yes, on to me. Actually, sorry, I will just go back to that. In 1998, I sold my company. I just didn't want to stand there with a photograph of me when I was here. In 1998, I sold my company, and I figured out what I was going to do next. So I walked up the road all of 100 metres over to offices to Racelogic. And I had a chat with Julian. How's it going, Julian? Well, it's going fine. And I wasn't exactly sure what it was that I could do for him, and I don't think he was either. But I suggested that I did maybe a couple of days' work a week. No change there then. No need to laugh. On the commercial side, and we'd see how it went. Well, I have to say, I think it went well. And so after 19 years, I'm still here. Well, still part-time. Interesting to see our website at that time. Rather different from the way it is now.
Pre-Jade.
Pre-Jade, yeah, pre-Jade. Thank you, Jade. Moving swiftly on. From that website. Cantran we've mentioned earlier, one of Chris's products. Isn't it amazing how much came from selling 100,000 of those little fellows? We had a lot of fun actually around that time with a company called, I think it was Dietz, Chris. They copied a picture that we had on our website because they copied the product and they copied the picture on our website and put it onto their website so they could sell it. The only thing is that they had a picture of Chris's thumb on the thing, so the picture of Chris's thumb and their version of that product, Cantran, was on their website, so we told them to remove it. Well, it wasn't only Superchips that we took people from. We did also take a few people from Fraser's, my old company. And in 1999, both Amanda and Laney joined us from that illustrious company. And having worked with them for about 8 years already, I certainly knew that what I was getting, and it was 2 perfectionists. In Amanda's case, taking over production, admin, HR, and of course quality. And in Laney's case, taking over the whole of the finance side of the company. She's hiding now. And all of the currency conversions and company secretarial role and everything else. I have to say, I never cease to be amazed by what Laney and Amanda do, and I know how lucky we are to have them. 2000 was a turning point, and that's when selective availability was turned off. GPS was immediately an order of magnitude more accurate, and it was that made VBox possible. So when Mr. Matsuda, who some of you may remember from Blitz or recently from Enable, asked us for a GPS solution to measure acceleration times and braking distance, etc., we were able to develop and sell him a product that we called VBox. Now, with a range of new products that we were developing, we needed to recruit some new, bright, young, keen staff. And what we unfortunately got, thank you, Julian, was Toby, a.k.a. the grumpy old man who sits in the corner. I can say that because he's not here now. No, he's not here. But I would have said it anyway, actually. Toby was pretty much solely responsible for all of the VBox firmware and a great deal more besides, and he still is. He's the most amazing mine of information, and he's the only one I know who knows how long is a piece of string, which he asks me from time to time. And he is, of course, a great pleasure to work with. 2001. 2001, we realized the potential of VBox, and we started to sell the product to other customers like Honda and Toyota. And to service these customers, we started to take distributors from around the world. We took on Kistler in the US, and we took on Ben Morris in the UK. And by the end of the year, we had distributors in 7 countries, including, incidentally, AFT in Germany, which is where Leander and Gerald worked. Same year, 2001, we had our first dealer meeting, which is rather different from the events we have now. It was in a hotel room in Stuttgart. A certain amount of Weiss beer was drunk, and I don't remember everything about it. But it was the start of something special. And these distributors still represent 50% of everything we do. They're on target this year to spend £8 million with us, just this year alone. Back to innovation, again, things that we had to do for VBox. You can see that it was pretty technical. This was a project that David Denier and Julian worked on to assess GPS performance at high lateral acceleration. That's exciting, isn't it? God dear. Was it? Well, I'm only telling you what David Denier told me. What would he know anyway? And it was made up from bits from the tit, Bike Child bicycles and things like that, and bits from Chris Smith's drawer. But it turned out that it needed rather more power to make it work. So I understand. Was it something I said, Alex? Sorry. Okay, in 2002, that merry band of people joined us. Richard Cobb, Robin, Tex, and Caroline. Richard Cobb has worked tirelessly in production and also found some time to do some handyman projects, or certainly did in his original days. I'm not sure if he does now. Robin manages to solder things that no one else can see. And she also manages the whole of production now. She's pretty good at grass track racing too, I'm led to believe. Tex joined us having worked previously with Toby, who I'm certain would have told him what a wonderful place. I can just hear it in the way Toby speaks. What a wonderful place Racelogic is to work. Tex now commutes from Selly Oak, I think it is. Where is Tex? Yeah, there he is, down hiding as well. He now commutes from Selly Oak in Birmingham, and he's written most of VBox tools and an awful lot of software that we use now. Caroline is a font of all knowledge in admin and the first person you talk to if you want your toilet unblocked or your car cleaned. So I understand. My God, Craig Wynant, that's the guy on the left-hand side. He didn't look quite as scary as that on the left-hand side in reality. But in 2003, Craig set up his own business, VBox USA, and he'd moved from our US distributor, Kistler. And it was Craig who introduced us to most of the other distributors, including, I think, Leander. Now, in the same year, we welcomed Kevin back from his stint with Superchips. And he was our third ex-Superchips employee. So for any of you who aren't keeping track of this, that's 3 from Superchips and that's 3 from Frasers, okay? But in case you had kept track of it, we then took 2 more on, Mike Gale and Mike Broadbent. And have a guess where they came from? You are absolutely right, Superchips. So that's now 5-3. Actually, I poached Mike Broadbent because I played squash with him every week. Guess the score, anyone? Mike's not here, is he? I won. Mike started in sales and then he became marketing manager, and now he handles a marketing budget of something like £600,000. So he's pretty essential to our future. That's not to say that Mike Gale isn't pretty essential too, before we go on. He's worked in production and repairs for most of the time when he's not dressing up. Where's Mike? Oh yeah, when he's not dressing up in Christmas parties. He used to dress up in outrageous Christmas parties. Sorry, he dressed up in outrageous costumes rather than the Christmas party being outrageous. At the Silverstone Classic event, he said it was amazing how he'd been at Racelogic for 13 years. I had to agree. And as his previous job was 4 years, and the job before that was 4 years as well. He must like it. Now, at that time, the organisation chart looked like that. There were, I think, 18 people there. I think I've just bear with me for one little second. My mouse has gone to sleep. Yeah, sorry, there were indeed. There's one slide that's missing.
Go back. You jumped it, that's all. There.
Oh, okay, sorry. I beg your pardon. I knew that Mark and Matt existed somewhere, but I couldn't find them. Mark started in production, and he's more recently joined Mike and Aaron in the returns team. Whilst Matt, you can guess where he came from.
It's a new shirt, that's for sure.
I was going to say that. Wasn't too. I'd noticed. So he was Superchip's number 6 employee, and he's been responsible for the development of firmware for most of our motorsport products, most recently Video VBox and HD2. I'm not quite sure what the eureka moment was at that point, or whether he'd just come back from holiday again, because it seems to make him happy. 2005, Leander joined us from AFT, and we started to sell direct to our customers in Germany. Leander has a truly amazing relationship with his customers. They seem more like his friends than his customers, and he's contributed enormously to Racelogic, with sales in Germany alone of over £16 million, let alone, of course, his influence in getting business in Asia. At the same time, Jim Lau, he joined VBox USA, and Jim also made some immense contributions in the USA, both on the sales and the technical side. I don't know exactly what he would have brought in sales, but I'm pretty certain he would know the figure precisely if he were sitting here. So now our distributor network was pretty much complete, and we deal with many of those same personnel now. It's clear that VBox was very important to us, but in 2006 we developed Performance Box and Truff Box, and those two products were worth over £5 million to us over time, and only now are we working on a replacement. That same year we gained an office. It looks as if it's a whole building, but it's not really. We gained an office in Germany. Just the back corner of it is ours. Thank you. And Gerald also joined us, where he'd come from AFT. He brought his calibration skills and his love of spreadsheets with him. Now, at this point, I should say, I'm not going to mention any more staff, as otherwise you'd be here all day. And I can see Graham looking at his watch anyway. So we have to get to a cut-off point. But it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate just as much all the people who came after that time, especially as some of them have almost 12 years service, like Sarah Brooks and Steve Taylor. That's 2 more people I've mentioned. Okay, 2008, Video VBox added to our motorsport range. Very significant product, as you know, and we've sold over 100,000 of that product.
This one again. Done a double click, go back one.
Thank you very much. 2008, very important for us. We'd grown fairly significantly. We took on these 2 units, required a lot of work, building mezzanine and the whole inside of the building to give us 16,000 square feet. It was an exciting time for me. I was pretty involved in that building. Another milestone for us in 2009 was when Labstat was born, a very important and very profitable product that got us into a lot of extremely prestigious companies like Apple, etc. And now, in 2011, I say now, but in 2011, we had 43 employees, and Julian's empire was growing. And I have to say, before I hand over to Graham, that it has been a real pleasure working with all of you, and I'm very proud to be part of Racelogic. It's also been a great pleasure to work with you, Julian, and I think we've been a pretty good team. The good cop, bad cop, I think always works well. So respect to you, Julian, for achieving this 25-year milestone, and thank you for what you've done for me and for all of us. As David Denier says, you're one of the very best. Now, frankly, the biggest favour I ever did for Julian, and I told him at the time, was, he did agree remarkably quickly, I may say, was bringing our 6th Fraser employee to Racelogic, and that was Graham Mackey. Graham has put in place building blocks to grow Racelogic from when he started. It was 8 million turnover. This year it should be 16. And you, Graham, have also been a fantastic person to work with. That's always nice to me now. So let me hand you over to Graham.
I'm getting a real feeling of deja vu here. For those that used to come to staff presentations, Harry's left me 30 seconds to do my presentation.
Might have taken 2 minutes too long.
So yes, I joined in 2011, and one of my first meetings that I remember was sat in a meeting with Harry and Richard Fry, talking about drilling holes in faceplates to fit second antenna ports to new products. And the following year, we launched the VB3i SL, the twin antenna product, to kind of enhance our VBox range. Another interesting fact: since we launched VBox in 2001, we've sold just short of £65 million worth of VBox products and modules. Just a staggering number. 2012 was also the year where we got our second and third Queen's Awards, the second one for export and the third for product innovation, which, as you probably know, was for LabSat and the effect LabSat had on the marketplace. Oh, I've done it now. 2012 was also the year we recruited Reed Scott. Reed came and joined us in October 2012. He didn't work at Superchips. He'd never heard of Frasers, but he looked a bit like Harry. So we recruited him in the October of 2012, and in April 2013, he set up our third regional office out in Detroit in the US. And then we acquired the assets, goodwill and staff from VBox USA, which Harry mentioned earlier on, and set up Racelogic USA. And they've continued, as you know, to go from strength to strength. A couple of years later, Daniel Yananda set up an office in Shenzhen in China for us. He's still the only employee out there, but he's doing a great job looking after our customers in the Asia markets. And another interesting figure in 2016, that from 1992 to 2016, so 24 years, our sales hit the 100 million mark. And on to this year. There's been a lot of talk about hardware innovation and all the products we've created, but I thought just take a moment to recognise the effort of the firmware and the software teams. It's the software that enables our customers to use our products. So products like VBox Tools, VBox Test Suite, Circuit Tools, Video VBox Setup, SatGen, and a range of iOS and Android apps that all allow our customers to get the most from their VBox products. And then this year also sees the launch of our first colour touchscreen product, the VTS. And the future. We'll have a presentation in September where we'll give you an update on things like VBox 4, indoor GPS, and where we are with things like video streaming. So you'll get that then. But there's no stopping our levels of innovation. I don't see things slowing down. I just see us creating more and more products that address more and more markets. But at the end of the day, it's not really about the products. Racelogic is about the people. It's about you, the people that design, produce, support the products that we've got that take us up to those numbers, give us the most fantastic graphs when you look at the number of people we now have in the business. So give yourself another round of applause, because it's you guys that did it.
That's when Harry started.
Was it? So yes, we're on target for over 16 million this year as an organisation. Okay. At staff presentations, I normally do a long service award, but this is a first. I haven't had to do a 25-year long service award yet, so this will be the first one, and the first one for another few years, I reckon, as well. So Julian, if you'd like to come up and get your 25-year long service clock and a card. And in true This Is Your... Do you remember This Is Your Life?
This is your life.
A true This Is Your Life fashion. Yeah. You have your own This Is Your Life book,
Cool.
complete with lots of stories and anecdotes for you to read. There we go.
Fantastic.
There we go. Do you want a speech? Yeah, I think we'll get a speech. Unprepared speech.
I don't know where to start.
I guess the main thing for me is just everybody that works for me, because when I was working on my own, I managed to turn over about £2,000, I think, in the first year. So it's all about the staff at Racelogic, and just it's been an absolute joy working with everybody, and some people I've worked with have become my closest friends, and yeah, it's just an absolute joy, and there's so many talented people. It's great as we grow. It's easier and easier to recruit some of the best people in the industry, and to work with them on a day-to-day basis is just an absolute privilege. It's fantastic. So yeah, thanks to everybody, I think. And the day that Harry walked into my office, I'll never forget that. It wasn't that bad. Often choked up. Because I went back to Jade. Went back to Jade that night, and we cracked open a bottle of champagne, and I said, "That's it. We're on our way," because Harry's interested in this. Because I knew I had such respect for Harry. I think we'll leave it at that, shall we? Right. Thanks very much. No, he's got more. Anyway, yeah. So that. So the fact that Harry started with us, and the company then took off, and then all of the expertise and the people behind him and his experience then just lit the fire under the company. I was able to stop doing the things I was rubbish at and start doing concentrating on the things I was good at. And yeah, I've always said that when Harry joined, Harry faced inwards to the company and I faced outwards, and we were back to back. So Harry could look after the company and grow the company, and I could look at the market and work out what's out there and how to grow the company. So I think that was a real turning point. So yeah, thank you very much. And
thank you.
Of course, he brought Graham in, which has been amazing. And and even the Fraser's numbers up a bit.
Yeah.
Thank you for making me choked up,
That's
guys.
all right then, sit down.
Oh, it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. We're not quite finished yet. One more thing to do. Well, a couple of things to do. First of all, there's some cake at the front. You can't have it yet. I'll take it through to the canteen about 11 o'clock, and you can help yourself. There's a 25-year anniversary cake and some cupcakes there. Should be plenty for everyone. And just to finish off, I went out to the world and asked them if they wanted to send any messages to Julian. And so we have a little video of some messages from Julian for 25 years that will really choke him up. If I can make it work. It's the bottom one, that one, to make sure it's in the middle. That's it. That's what I need to do. Is getting that into the middle.
Hi Julian, the whole Racelogic team is proud to be part of the Racelogic family. We hope that also in the next 25 years you will come up with some good ideas. We wish you
Happy anniversary!
Congratulations, Julian, 25 years of innovation. We look forward to the next 25 years success together. Thank you, Julian.
Congratulations, giant success story. Great human quality. All the best for the future. Bye.
Hi Julian. I bet you didn't think 25 years ago that it would be this big. But here we are, wrinklier and greyer, but still having fun. Congratulations on 25 years. Cheers.
Hi Julian, congratulations on 25 years of innovation from all of us here at Racelogic USA. Happy anniversary!
Hi Julian, congratulations, 25 years. Come to Japan again.
Best regards on Racelogic's 25th anniversary.
Happy
It's just weird. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.